In 2002, a natural disaster happened at Kolka Glacier in the Russian Republic of North Ossetia, the boundary between Europe and Asia. The event occurred in the Caucasian Mountains, near the dormant Kazbek volcano, which is almost 5 kilometers high. 2 months before the disaster, a series of large ice failures and rock avalanches started on the face of the Jimarai Khokh mountain above the glacier, originating at the heights of more than 4 kilometers above sea level. On September the 20th, most of the Kolka glacier left its bed and was thrown down the Genaldon River valley. A trough-shaped depression remained in place of the glacier. The ice rock water mass went down the valley at enormous speed, entraining loose deposits, water, and stagnant ice. Part of the material followed the canyon of the Kolka River. The other part jumped over the moraine, which divides Kolka and Meili glaciers, then slid over the Meili glacier tongue and reunited with the first part. The flow traveled like a wave from one side of the valley to another, within a belt of 400–500 meters wide, with a speed reaching 250 kilometers per hour. It ran up valley slopes for 150–200 meters and higher. The main mass stopped and deposited in the Karmadan Depression. It formed an ice rock dam 2.1 square kilometers in area, 3.6 kilometers long, and up to 140 meters thick, with the average thickness of 60 meters. The volume of the dam was about 150 million cubic meters. Downstream of this dam, stopped by the narrow gorge of the Skalisty Range, a debris flow formed. Its wave, up to 30 meters high, had a discharge rate of about 2,000 cubic meters per second. On exiting the gorge, the height of the wave reduced. On exiting the gorge, the height of the wave reduced. At the point where the Genaldon River meets the Gizildon River, it was below 4 meters. In the Gizildon River floodplain, the debris flow transformed into a debris-rich flood. The length of the disaster path totaled 36 kilometers. Thirteen new temporary dammed lakes formed after the disaster. The ice rock dam stopped the waters of the Kauridon River. After this, the largest dammed lake was formed. It was called Saniba, after the village it flooded. At least 125 people were killed in this disaster, including a well-known Russian film director Sergei Bodrov and his crew. Roads were destroyed, tunnels blocked, a power line, bridges, recreation centers and residential houses swept away. Part of the Gornaya Saniba village was flooded. Surges and movements of the Kolka Glacier happened repeatedly in the last 200 years. It's not accidental that ancient villages of Tmenikau and Kani are built on the hills over 100 meters above the Genaldon River. In 1902, a disaster happened, which was very similar to the catastrophic movement in 2002. The path of the ice masses was shorter, and the ice dam formed in the Genaldon River floodplain by the village of Tmenikau. The event killed people at hot springs in the upper part of the valley. In 1969–1970, a less rapid movement of Kolka Glacier occurred. The glacier advanced by 4.5 kilometers, moving at a speed of up to several tens of meters a day. There was no disaster. Experts at that time forecasted the next advance approximately in 2040. Most researchers focused on the origins and triggers of the ГЕНАЛДОН glacier disaster in 2002. However, the most important objectives for the present and near future were assessment of current situation, study of possible scenarios for the further development and design of protective measures. These were the tasks for the Engineering and Design Institute Sevkavgiprovodkhoz, situated in the Russian town of Pyatigorsk. After the disaster. After September the 20th of 2002, the valley was thoroughly studied to assess the main processes after the disaster. Ice and rock failures in the Kolka glacier cirque continued after the disaster, but they are not so intense. Ice has started to accumulate in the place of the former glacier. Side glaciers, former tributaries of Kolka, have started to advance. Immediately after the disaster, several landslides on the banks of the ГЕНАЛДОН River were activated. 2 years later, after the ice left on the slopes has melted, they started to stabilize. Debris flows of average magnitude occurred several times. They deposited material at the flat accumulation plain above the ice dam in the Karmadan Depression. By summer of 2005, the volume of the ice dam in the Karmadan Depression reduced by 65%. The ГЕНАЛДОН River formed a new channel over the rock debris, at a higher level compared to the pre-disaster period. In August of 2005, the river was using the road tunnel blocked in 2002. The water volume in Lake Saniba was initially reaching 5 million cubic meters, and the lake depth was up to 34 meters. The lake waters were threatening an outburst flood, but a month after the disaster, they found drainage channels under the ice, and the lake level started to fall. In the end of the summer of 2005, the lake volume was about 250,000 cubic meters. Other temporary lakes are gradually disappearing. Downstream of the Skalisty range, the valley bed was covered by debris flow deposits containing melting ice. These deposits were intensively eroded and transported, making the reconstruction of roads and bridges impossible. On the ГЕНАЛДОН River, flash floods a few months before the disaster ruined water development, bank protections, and underscored bridge support. After the disaster, various communications periodically come under threat. Future. The most likely post-catastrophic scenario for the years immediately ahead is evolution of the disaster zone after the events of September the 20th of 2002 without significant external impacts. No disastrous development are forecasted until about the year of 2025. The intensity of the terrain-forming processes in the next 1 or 2 years will fall to background values. In the former repository of Kolka Glacier, new ice masses will build up. When about 100 million cubic meters of ice and debris is accumulated, Kolka Glacier may start moving again. The movement when the new disaster may strike will depend on climatic factors, seismic processes, and activity of the magmatic core of the Kazbek volcano. Its activity near Kolka Glacier is marked by hot mineral springs. It is possible that a lake of meltwater is forming under Kolka from time to time and contributes to the loss of glacier stability. The main factor provoking debris flow activity in the ГЕНАЛДОН River Valley is extreme rain on the background of high summer temperatures. Before the ice dam in the Karmadan Depression melts, only flows with volumes about 4 million cubic meters can pull through and reach downstream of the Skalisty Range Gorge. But if it happens, even average flash floods can be dangerous. A level gauge should be installed at the point where the ГЕНАЛДОН River exits the Skalisty Range to monitor critical discharges and give early warnings to population. This is important because populated foothills start immediately downstream. Objects in danger zone include large settlements, bridges, and critical infrastructure such as a large drinking water intake. The disaster of 2002 is rare and unique in terms of the volume of the entrained ice and velocity. It caused many casualties, ruined infrastructure, brought up principal changes of geomorphological, hydrological, social and psychological environment in mountainous Ossetia. In future, unstable parts of the high mountainous Caucasus should be under qualified monitoring. It should be effected with full participation of the state authorities responsible for the safety of their citizens.